the Overman Warrior Podcast.
Hi, it's Rich Hoffman here. Let's talk about personal music, personal ownership. Remember a few years ago when the World Economic Forum said you'll rent everything and like it? People don't like it so much, and I think that's most obvious in personal music. For instance, just to show how quickly things have changed, I have a car. It's not that old. 10 years or so. I usually drive cars for a decade or more. And I was taking somebody to lunch the other day, and they saw in my car that my car has a CD player in it. And they asked what it was. And this is a person in their 20s. So when CDs were very popular, they were in their teens, puberty time. And I explained that CDs used to be a big thing. If you go to the Walmart section in music, they still sell CDs there. Something I've noticed increasingly when you go to places like Cracker Barrel, they album sales. You see that at Walmart too. Album sales, the vinyls like I grew up with, are making a comeback because people want to buy personal music. They want to own something, so they're going back to the old vinyls. And I remember how those vinyls with a record player seemed so archaic compared to a CD. So I was trying to explain to this kid what a CD was, and they just couldn't get their mind wrapped around it because most of his adult life, it's been subscription-based Apple Music, which I hate. I think it's disgusting. Spotify, Apple Music. My grandkids notice that we have CDs on our entertainment center, and we have a library of CDs. And I told them to come back because CDs were pretty cool. When you could take your CD, and I explained to this kid, you could put your CD in that little slot that's in my car, and it would take it and read it, and you could drive down the road and you can play music anytime you wanted. You don't have to be connected to the internet to have your music. You could be in the middle of nowhere with no internet connection and still listen to whatever you wanted to listen to in the order you wanted to listen to it, which seemed audacious to him. It's like, that's the desire for personal music, to have personal ownership over your stuff. It's a very real thing, and the fact that vinyls are making a comeback tells you everything you need to know. And there's a significant section now at the Cracker Barrel gift shops anywhere in the country that they're selling albums. People want their personal music. They don't want to rent from Apple perpetually. I think it's ridiculous. It costs a lot of money. The trade-off is you can get anything you want anytime you want it, but you got to be connected to the internet, and you got to keep paying them money, otherwise it goes away. People want to be able to buy it, own it, put it on their shelf, just like they want to be able to buy an item of clothing and have it on their shelf. They don't want to share it, rent it. They don't want those socialist ideas of shared community space. They want to own their stuff. Whether it's a book, whether it's music, whether it's clothing, people like to own their own things. So it was interesting to think about. I explained how a CD worked to this compact disc. How I remember when they came out in the late 80s and everyone was talking about how cool this was, this new technology. And I thought it was great because I had lots of albums, vinyl albums, and that was the way you got music, and you could make a recording off a tape deck, and sequence songs in order that you wanted, your own playlist. I used to do that a lot, but you'd pull them off albums, and you'd record something off that album, and then have a tape for your car to listen to, and you had to run it through. It wasn't CDs. You could go to any index you wanted in any order you wanted to. It was pretty cool. CDs were revolutionary, and then they went away, and they went away by selection, not by market conditions. This is one of those things where people at the World Economic Forum said, you know what, you're going to rent music from us. If you want the music, you're going to rent it. And what they've done is they've destroyed the market, just like they've done with Hollywood. They put all these woke enterprises into their storytelling, and then they destroy the market share, and then they wonder why it went away. And then people are so hungry for it that they're willing to go back essentially 30, 40 years to vinyl records in order to own personal music. And it's quite an effort that's out there. I can't believe people are actually going out and buying vinyls. And this kid was more prone to buying an album. Said he bought an album at Target for some latest music group, and he couldn't believe that there was actually CDs, even though he was alive when CDs were still around. My car's not that old, but I told him you could put the disc in and it would read it. You didn't have to be connected to the internet. You didn't have to pay for a subscription. You just owned the CD. Put it in your little bag, take it wherever you wanted to go. You owned it. It was yours. And it was pretty much hard to destroy. Sometimes you get a scratch on a CD or a smudge that would loop and cause it to skip. But otherwise, you could drive down the road at 100 miles an hour with a CD in your CD compact disc player, and it wouldn't skip on you. It would play continuously, and it was great. It was great to have your own stuff, to own your own bits, and to have it so reliable. And when compact discs came out, they were the rage, and I was a big fan of them. And then they just sort of disappeared around the time that the World Economic Forum said, you're going to rent everything and own nothing, and you're going to like it. People don't like it so much so that they're going back to vinyl discs, vinyl records, which I find astonishing, because there's a lot of problems with vinyl albums. But that everywhere you go now, vinyl albums are a big deal, and people are buying them up, and they're playing records, which you can't hardly find a compact disc for anything, which is crazy because they worked great, and that was a great way for people to have personal ownership of music they liked. You didn't have to subscribe to it continuously from Apple Music or somebody else, and I say Apple Music because I'm familiar with Apple Music. I think it's great they have such a vast library, but I think it's horrible that you can't own it. You have to rent it. You have to rent everything. And it's a desire for this political class to take over ownership of everything, whether it's a house, whether it's cars, whether it's your power consumption, your personal music and entertainment. Everything's rented. You notice that it used to be a common thing to get Blu-rays and DVDs when your favorite movie came out. It was released to home release. It was common to own that. Now you stream it. Now you go to HBO Max or you go to Netflix or somewhere else and you stream everything. And the same model's been moved over to music, and people don't like it. People want to have ownership. It's just like the IPO for SpaceX. People want to own. They want to own a piece of something. They don't want to rent it. They want to be they want to have it so they can have it on their shelf and feel like they're a part of it. That's something very specific to humans. Is they want to own things. They want to own property. They want to get married. They want to have kids. They want them to be their kids. They want them to be their spouse. They want to have their refrigerator full of food. They don't want to rent it. They don't want to go out and get it all the time and rent it from other people or have other people make it for them all the time. They want to have ownership over their stuff. They want a house. They want a refrigerator. They want a yard. They want a car. Americans, they want their own stuff. They don't want to rent it. And that's what these progressive globalists have been thinking they can impose on the human race forever, is this idea that humans, if they just keep giving it to them, take away all their options, they'll eventually rent it. They'll rent their music like they do for Apple. They'll stream their movies like they do on HBO and some of the other streaming services that are out there. They'll rent it if they don't have an option. That is save space. It is save consumption of materials. Who wants to make all that plastic so everybody can have so people can have personal ownership of music? They can just rent it. We can store it on a server somewhere. The problem with that is these vinyls are much larger than CDs ever were. I used to be able to put a whole bunch of CDs in my car, and they hardly took up any space at all. And I had on-demand music everywhere I wanted to go, anytime I wanted it, and I did not have to be connected to the internet to have it. Another big problem with streaming services, if you have a power outage and you're relying on the internet to get all your entertainment, it used to be great when you had a sustained power outage. And I live in Ohio, and sometimes you have power outages, big storms, big hurricanes that come up from the Gulf, and they come out and knock out the power grid for a day or two. Sometimes you have tornadoes to do a number on the power grid. You might have power outages for a sustained period of time. And what was always great was that you could just turn on your TV. If you could get enough power off a generator, you could run a DVD player or a Blu-ray player. If you could turn the TV on and a player, you could watch something. You didn't have to have connection to the internet to do it. So if the internet gets knocked out, you could still have access to things. And that's part of the benefit of personal ownership and having your own personal libraries. And there's no plans to revert back to CDs, but I still like it. I still have a CD player in my car. It still works. I still like it and use it when I can. And I prefer it over streaming services, over plugging my phone into a USB player, a USB jack in the car, and listening to it on an auxiliary input into your internal speaker system in your car. As I'm saying that, I'm thinking about a couple different things. I'm thinking about how, often when you're traveling and you've got your map tracker on, and it's trying to talk to you and tell you where you're going, where you need to be going, what road to turn off of. You don't really want your music interrupted or your stuff interrupted. You don't want to be looking down at your phone while you're messing around with all this stuff. Plus, people are texting you and calling you, and all kinds of things are going on. It's nice to have music separate. Your entertainment should be separate from all the other things. And what's happened is these idiots, these globalist types, went out there and tried to put it all in a one package deal. Your entertainment, your communications, your libraries of everything are all there. You rent the space from us. So we have a constant revenue stream, and it's turned out to be a disaster. So much so that vinyl albums are making a comeback, which is crazy because I thought they would never come back again after the introduction of the CD, the compact disc, which was technically much more superior than the vinyls were. And that vinyls would reluctantly make a comeback before CDs would. Tells you how invested all these people are into renting. They buy up all the music. You rent it from them. They share this. They give you access to the space. And it's just one of those. It's just another subscription-based model where you rent from somebody who owns it, and you'll like it. And it's the World Economic Forum model. Don't own anything. Rent it from everybody, from the other people who do. I had to talk about this the other day. We were talking about RV travel and why do I like RV travel. I prefer to travel by RV if I can, because I like having my own bed. I like having my own table, my own refrigerator. There's nothing better, I don't think, than stopping by and getting some gas on a trip when you're driving 1,000 miles, and every 3 or 4 hours you're stopping for gas. If you're traveling with children, they don't have to go into the dirty bathrooms at the travel station. They can go use the restroom in your RV, which is wonderful. It keeps it nice and clean for them. It gives them a feeling of personal space, and then you have a working refrigerator with cool drinks and your own snacks that you can just get out of the RV and snack on them while you're driving, instead of having to buy stuff off the grid. You can totally get off the grid. You own your stuff, and then you go to a campsite, you rent the space, you rent the campsite from someone who's maintaining the site, but you have all your stuff. You plug your electricity in, you plug your water in, you have usually a sewage connection, so you are off the grid, but you're on their grid, but you have all your own stuff, and you sleep in your own bed, you sit at your own table, and you store your own stuff. There's times where I buy a lot of books. I like to own books. I don't like to rent books. I don't like to lease books. I don't like to go on Audible and just download books and listen to them. I like to own a physical copy. So every book I have some physical copy for my library. I like to actually put my hands on it and touch it. It's a thing with me. I'm not a downloader. I don't like to consume downloadables. I like to own them. And when you're camping, and I buy a lot of books when I'm out traveling, I can put them in the camper while we're driving around and not have to worry about filling the back seat of the trunk. I can get easy access to them. There's a lot to be said about personal autonomy, but I don't like renting those spaces. I like owning those spaces. And compact discs were great. And it wasn't that long in the past. I have a car that I still drive that has compact disc player in it. And a person I was taking to lunch had no idea what that slot was. What do you do with that? Well, that's where you put your compact disc, buddy. What's a compact disc? Haven't you ever seen one before? They still sell them at Walmart in smaller quantities than they used to. But the personal music consumption market was a big deal, and people want it so bad that they're going back to vinyls to get them. That tells you how much hunger there is for personal ownership of their entertainment, whether it's books, music, or movies. People want to own their own stuff, and they don't necessarily want to be attached to a bunch of other people to get it. It's hurt the market share of entertainment to force people into shared spaces they don't want to collaborate with. Music is one of those spaces. Just an observation and something to take note of. I'm Rich Hoffman here. Share, subscribe, make tomorrow a better day. If you haven't read my book, The Gunfighter's Guide to Business, I think you'll love it. Anyway, have a good day. See you later.
In the age of disclosure, you must understand the politics of heaven. Coming soon.
Coming soon, the politics of heaven in 2027. A treasure hunt through heaven and all human history.